Welcome to I Said What I Said, a sports podcast giving you opinions not heard anywhere else. I'm your host, Brad Wakai, alongside my co host, Tyson Gentry. And Tyson, we got an interesting, fun episode today. I mean, it's Super Bowl week. Finally, the game's taken off, right? Like, we don't have any NFL for a week, and then we lead into this big game. I'm like, dude, am I on my football schedule now? Am I moving into the basketball schedule? Like, it was a weird weekend for me.
It's kind of like waking up, it's the first week after daylight savings or whatever when your body doesn't totally know what to do. That was Sunday. I just like instinctively went to the couch and then realized that I had chores to do and stuff like that. No football was on. So, I mean, I'm glad we're here. It seems like we've gotten less stupid storylines out of this first week than normal. Granted, that practice field is going to be beat to death over the next 5 days.
Oh, of course. So 49ers and Chiefs all crescendoing into this Sunday. I think it's going to be a good game. Tyson and I, we got a ton of content that's coming out later. We're going to preview the game from an X's and O's standpoint, what we expect. And then, of course, we got our big gambling bonanza. But as it starts right now, Tyson, like, where are you looking? What are you leaning? What are you expecting?
I think at this moment, and it might change by the time we get to Wednesday, but like a slight lean towards Kansas City at the moment, and I can't totally explain why. I think it's just Pat Mahomes, but I think the more I get into the numbers and kind of really think about it, that might change. I don't know, but um, last year going into the game was Philadelphia was 3.5 when it opened. That sounds right off the top of my head.
No, it was 1.5
One and a
or two
half,
and a half, something
two
like
and
it
a
was
half.
under a field
Okay.
goal.
Yeah, so that's a couple years in a row now. We're going in with almost blind, right? Because the Bengals, Rams, and it's nice to get one of these where you don't really know who's going to win. It's just sometimes things start to feel inevitable, man.
Yeah, you and just about everybody else I've ever heard this past week is just like, it's Kansas City. Like, does anybody like the 49ers in this game? Like, it feels like everybody and
Talk
their
to me on
mom is
Wednesday.
betting the Chiefs. So we'll see what happens. Tyson and I got a little bit of time. We'll start previewing it. We're going to start diving into some tape, all that good stuff. So come prepared. We got later in the week, but we wanted to start this one off with our own NFL awards. Like, we're going to go through this because we got the
Oh,
NFL award show coming up.
but do you want to talk Pro Bowl before we get into this? I know you're a
No, I
big
didn't.
Pro Bowl guy.
Oh, I didn't even know that was happening last weekend. I completely forgot. It was just I heard it was a sham though.
That was fine. It was normal. I just wanted to give you some grief,
Some
see if I
heat.
could get you on a tangent.
Oh man, no, I only get worked up about things I care about, and the Pro Bowl is so far on my list of things that I have no interest in. Like, I just can't even feign anger or anything about it.
It was nice. It was nice watching him not try with no pads on. That's what I'll say.
Well, we got our NFL awards today. When is it, Tyson? It's this week for sure when they're going to hand out the hardware, I believe.
I thought it was Saturday.
This is Saturday. Okay. So anyway, on the timeline of this week, so we're going to go through our own awards. We're going to hand out everything from the MVP down to Coach of the Year. This is who we think should win the award, not who's going to win the award, not who we think is actually going to win the award. It's if Tyson and I had our ballots, if we were voters, these are the people that we would write in as our winner for this year. So, do we want to get it started? We want to start with the top one, MVP.
I think you got to start with MVP, huh? Or leave
All
it to
right.
the end. We're
Let's
already in.
let's let's start with MVP. So, I think this is an interesting one, Tyson, because the whole story this offseason, or I'm sorry, throughout the entire season was this guy's going to win it next week. This guy's going to win it next week. It was like a roller coaster of who's winning it and who's not. So now it's finally at the end here. Who are you going with?
I'm going with the MVP. I'm going with Lamar Jackson. This is interesting, so because you get to bring out your hater glasses when we talk about Lamar here, and I have a feeling you're going to go somewhere else. Don't look at the box score for Lamar Jackson, and I know bad taste was left in everybody's mouth with the AFC Championship no-show against the Chiefs, and go back to listen to how we felt on that. I didn't feel like that was all Lamar's fault. That's neither here nor there. This is a regular season award. I thought he was the most important player to his team during the regular season. For as much, Todd Monken's really changing this thing. As we heard, it didn't really look like anything changed until about week 6. And then by that point, the difference really was Lamar Jackson had kind of ascended to a different plane than he was on to start the season. And, when you're beating everybody by 50, it's tough to put up these crazy numbers. Didn't turn the ball over, ran the ball efficiently, ran the ball effectively, threw the ball effectively, scored enough touchdowns, and won a lot of games. And I think I thought he was always the MVP. It just wasn't until Christmas that people kind of came around.
And that's an interesting argument there. And I think he's probably going to win the award. But Tyson, if I'm handing out the award, I'm going to Josh Allen, because if you look at what he did this season, and I know everybody's just so obsessed with his interceptions numbers. And I think the way we talk about interceptions are like from 1970s. Like nobody really understands like what we're talking about with how interceptions can actually help out an offense. I know it's crazy to think about, but that's a different discussion for a different day. But 29 touchdowns he threw for the year, also ran in 15. That was third in the NFL. Like the guy is a touchdown machine. He's responsible for so much on that offense. And I think when we peel back the curtain a little bit here, once Joe Brady took over as offensive coordinator, his game improved. His game went to the next level, and that offense improved. If Joe Brady was the offensive coordinator the entire year, I'm curious how that looked. Again, we have 2020 vision here, or we can look back and just say, oh, well, if Joe Brady's this the whole time, these are going to be his stats. But I just think the importance that he had for the team, like you mentioned it with Lamar, but take Josh Allen off of that Bills team. Like this offense, sure, Stephon Diggs, it's a good name. Did anybody watch him in the second half of the season? The guy was a ghost. So I don't know how good that offense is unless you take away the second best QB in the league. So Josh Allen is my most valuable player for this season.
I think he might have disappeared a little bit because that corresponded with when Joe Brady became in charge, right? So it's kind of 50-50 there. I don't know if I'm going to let you have both sides of that argument.
All right, let's move into the next one. Offensive player of the year. Another one, Tyson, where things were just bouncing off the wall left and right. Like it's got to be Tyreek. It's got to be AJ Brown. It's got to be this person. It's got to be that person. But I think we're pretty confident in who we think should win this award.
Right. I can't speak for you, but I think after the way you phrased that we're going to go with Christian McCaffrey here. And you really can go with, if you wanted to give it to Tyreek, I'm not going to be mad at you. I think AJ would be a stretch, maybe slot like CeeDee Lamb or somebody in there. There were some crazy years this year, but at the end of the day, Christian McCaffrey had 2,000 scrimmage yards. He had 20 plus touchdowns. We fumbled the ball like 3 times, I think, this season. He is the engine. He's like, for as much. Look at all the playmakers they have. And Ayuk did this on this amount of targets. And when Debo has the ball, he's crazy. And George Kittle's awesome. And all Purdy has to do is find a guy. What happened the last couple weeks? I know I just said it's a regular season award, but I would have given this to him at the end of the regular season. And then when stuff hits the fan in the playoffs, you get 23 to dig you out of that hole. I think that tells you everything you need to know, because Miami tried to go to Tyreek Hill to dig themselves out of holes this season. They weren't able to do it. I think Dallas tried to go to CeeDee Lamb to dig themselves out of holes. They weren't able to do it. And then Philadelphia, the hole just kept getting deeper the more they threw it to AJ Brown at the end of the year. So I'm going with Christian McCaffrey. To me, I think this was one of the best seasons I've ever seen. I don't know how much longer this guy can do it for, but I do want to say that the Hall of Fame tracker for Christian McCaffrey has him like not even close to getting in. And I think that's where context matters, because if this dude isn't one of the best I've ever seen play football, then I guess I don't know what I'm watching.
Yeah, no, Christian McCaffrey's my answer as well. You look at the whole body of work throughout the entire season, productivity, the yards, getting into the end zone, what he means to the offense. He's an absolute stud. And the 49ers, they took a big swing when they traded for him. I think it's paid off in spades. And I think that, of course, that would be even emphasized more if they win the Super Bowl this upcoming Sunday. But he's going to be a major part of that. He's been a major part of this offense since they got him. And we talked about it a little bit. Oh, it could be Eli Mitchell, or remember when Jeff Wilson Jr. was doing it. But those guys get hurt. And since McCaffrey's come over to the 49ers, he has not gotten hurt. Now, I'm going to knock on wood here, because we know the injury history that he had a couple years ago with the Carolina Panthers. So I'm hoping he stays healthy. I'm hoping we get to see more of that, because I agree with you. I mean, the trajectory this guy has, sure, maybe he doesn't factor into the Hall of Fame voting, but man, it's hard not to talk about this past few years of the NFL without mentioning Christian McCaffrey at the top of the list.
Do you think Eli Mitchell would crack 1,000 yards if he was a full-time starter?
He probably, well, in this game?
Yeah, I think he probably would.
I think so.
I just think it would look so different, and he's not catching all these passes and stuff. So that's kind of the crux of the 49ers argument, is they're only good because of the scheme, but then the scheme's only good because of the really good players that they have. And the truth is, they're both kind of insane.
Okay. Defensive player of the year. I mean, every single time we come into the season, it's always like the same list, right? It's Micah Parsons, uh, Myles Garrett, and Nick Bosa. Like those are like the three that you kind of circle. It's like, okay, one of these guys is going to win it. Well, we kind of forgot about somebody, Tyson, and I think he reminded people after he came back from injury last season and started, tearing up the league once again, who the defensive player of the year is, and who is that for you?
This one kind of hurts because if you go back and listen to our preseason show, I had Myles Garrett's tickets left and right on Defensive Player of the Year, on to lead the league in sacks and everything. And then TJ Watt just showed up and busted all the dreams and hopes that I had. And you can look at the crazy numbers and look at 19 sacks, 4 forced fumbles, all this stuff. You can look at how the defense plays when he's not out there. All of those things factor in. But to me, it's timing. Like this dude just makes the play to win the game when you need the play to win the game to happen. Myles Garrett can, he can do those things too, but a lot of times, we're talking about some crazy Myles Garrett games where he kind of disappeared in the fourth quarter, or he disappeared to end the second half of the season, or Micah Parsons flashes and gets 2 early sacks and he's dead for the rest of the game on the stat sheet. TJ Watt is involved in every play, and look, I know MVP is an offensive award, but like if you were going to expand it to the whole league, this dude might actually be the most important in the NFL.
Well, the reason you say that is because they're 1-10 when TJ Watt doesn't play. Like the Steelers, you take one guy out of there, and it's not the quarterback, and they're 1-10. But I mean, you said it. The production that this guy does year after year, like another 19 sack season. The guy missed a little bit of time with injury, and he just every single time he's on the field, he is a problem. You have to block him with 2 guys, and sometimes that doesn't even work. So he's my defensive player of the year again. And this is 2 years in a row that I've lost a little bit of juice because of TJ Watt as well. Because the previous year I had Myles Garrett to lead the league in sacks. This year I had Micah Parsons, and that didn't work out. So TJ Watt, I guess what we're learning here, Tyson, is that if we're betting on this market, just go with TJ Watt. At least hold a ticket so we can make a little scratch.
How much more does he have to do to catch JJ?
Oh, in terms of like being viewed as better or
the guy, yeah. If he like to catch up, because there was a time when it was like there was JJ Watt, and then there was a gap to Aaron Donald, and then there was a gap to everybody else in the NFL. Perception.
I mean, that's a good question, because I feel like if JJ retired like while he was on top instead of going to the Cardinals, like the perception of him would just be like, oh my God. But we kind of saw a little bit of fall off in the injuries. So we're like, yeah, the shine came off a little bit, and maybe we're just too close to JJ Watt. Like when we look back, maybe in like 10 years, we're like, oh my God, dude, remember how good this guy was? So I don't know. That's going to be interesting though to discuss who's the better Watt brother, because they both had damn good careers. That's for sure.
Yeah, congratulations to the mother. That's pretty insane.
Yeah,
that house had to be a lot of fun.
Okay, let's move to the next one here. Offensive Rookie of the Year. And I mean, if you've been following anything at the NFL this season, I think you know who Tyson and I are going to pick again here.
Yeah, sorry to Puka Nacua for putting up the greatest rookie receiving numbers like ever, because you happen to come into the same draft class as a guy who just shattered. CJ Stroud just had the best rookie NFL quarterback season of all time, and was it even particularly close? I know we can look at numbers and be like, well,
yeah,
it actually came through for this many yards, and Andrew Luck won this many games, and RG3 ran for this many. CJ Stroud just took a team, and we'll get into it here a little later, so maybe I'll save it. But CJ Stroud was freaking unreal. And I think, we're at a point where after year one, we're talking about that next tier of quarterback after your Mahomes and your Allen, where it's like, maybe that starts with CJ. And that's not a conversation we've had about any other rookie quarterback since before I was born, probably.
John Elway.
Yeah.
I mean, he was unbelievable. Stroud was just past season. I mean, the perception about the Texans, again, people were banging on him because they're like, why the hell would you trade up and, go and get Will Anderson and CJ Stroud? Like, you're going to be giving a top 5 pick away for the Cardinals, because that's how bad people thought this team was going to be. And they won the division. They won a playoff game because they have an elite quarterback in CJ Stroud. This kid's going to continue to get better. I thought what he showed this season, and remember, after we saw him in preseason, we're like, holy smokes, this guy may be in over his head. Complete opposite. He looked incredible. pretty much from the jump after the Ravens game. That's a tough defense. We know that now. But once he settled in, I mean, sky it was the limit for this team, and they were able to win a division. It's super impressive that he put that together.
Who would you rather have right now? CJ Stroud, Trevor Lawrence.
CJ
Stroud, right?
Not even
Yeah.
close.
And this is the same
even
division. And it's like, Trevor was going to run this thing for a decade because everyone else sucked. And it took 17 games for that entire perception to switch. Maybe that's a lesson. When a rookie comes in and they look over their head or they're making weird comments in the media, just bet on him for Rookie of the Year. Remember when Jamar Chase said that he can't catch in the NFL because they don't have the white lines on the football and everyone lost their minds?
Yeah. Well, you know what? That's what we're going to be looking for, Tyson. That's what we're going to be looking for. What an interesting one was defensive rookie of the year. I mean, you want to talk about like a hard market to follow, like who was good this year, who deserved to win an award. I mean, it looked like it was going to be Jalen Carter, who just got out to a great start. And you're like, holy smokes, look at this, look at that. And then he fell off a little bit in the second half. And we're kind of looking around like, man, is there anybody else who wants to step up? So I think this is an interesting one. Tyson and I have different players here. We went 3 in a row for this between those last 3 awards. So we're going to have some disagreement here. So who is your defensive rookie of the year?
I got Devon Witherspoon of the Seattle Seahawks. This is full circle. This was my draft crush before the season. And, honestly, I think this is the hardest award to predict on who they're going to give it to. I don't even know if it's like the most hotly contested, right? I don't know if all these, like they all have a case, but it's not necessarily the strongest case that you'd like to see. It wasn't 3, unreal seasons. There were 3 really good seasons between Will Anderson, Witherspoon, and Jalen Carter. I think the award's probably going to go to Jalen Carter. I think there's a lot of media push to get that story out there. But Witherspoon finished the season with 79 tackles. 16 passes defense. He played 14 games. This was like the pass defense. The numbers when he was on versus off are pretty staggering for a rookie. I think, if Sauce Gardner can get all of this love and recognition for his rookie year and Devon Witherspoon can show up and do a little better, then maybe we got to pay some respect because I think, we are pretty quick to point out the next best corner in the NFL. And his name was getting thrown around a lot in week 7, week 8, right? He's got the 100-yard pick 6 and playing crazy. And then it got real quiet when he got hurt. This is, to me, I think this dude he's the one going forward. I think this is going to be the best corner in the NFL, and I think he proved it in year 1.
Ooh, I love that. That's a great
He's a corner who hits. That's it.
Yeah, you love that too. You love those type of players. I'm going to go with Will Anderson Jr. from the Texans. It looked like maybe he may have been a little over his head to start, but that's going to happen at times. And then he finished the season with 7 sacks, 45 tackles, 29 of them were solo, 22 QB hits, 10 tackles for loss. The guy's just a player, man. And I thought it was hilarious, the discourse coming out like, I don't know, like we've only talked about this guy like he's like the best defensive player prospect in a long time. And then we get to the draft, everybody's like, I don't know about Will Anderson. I'm like, the guy can play. We saw it at the SEC for a long time in Alabama. So I thought that was pretty funny. But I thought after a slow start, he really came on, looked impressive at the end. An ankle injury really hampered him down the stretch. But I thought for coming in with really a defense that's kind of makeshift, Tyson, like they've got a bunch of young guys. It's not like there's veterans there to take pressure off. And I thought he handled it well and he grew into it. And I think the future is really bright for Will Anderson Jr. So they got two of the best rookies for the Houston Texans. How about that?
Who's going to actually win this award? Like, who do you think they're going to give it to?
I think they're probably going to give it to Jalen Carter.
I do too.
Yeah.
It's pretty funny. I mean, it's been a whole year since Will Anderson was on preseason Heisman lists. So maybe it's fair that we kind of forgot the prospect that he was.
All right, let's close it out here. Coach of the year. This was a great year for coaches, I thought. Now, you think you can run through the list? I mean, Stefanski with his 18th quarterback, I think now, is still knocking on the door. That was impressive. I mean, Kevin O'Connell, a similar thing. 3 quarterbacks there. Kirk Cousins goes down. Nick Mullins, he has to rotate in. Josh Dobbs, they get from off the street.
Jaren Hall, your boy.
Hall. Oh boy, what a performance he had! But I mean, Mike LaFleur, all that good stuff, or Matt LaFleur, all that good stuff there. But we got 2 guys here. I think it's hard to argue against them. So, Tyson, who is your NFL Coach of the Year?
Well, let me take you back like 12, maybe 14 months, right? When Lovie Smith wins a football game and the entire world loses their minds. And the Houston Texans just screwed themselves beyond belief. They gave away the number one pick. They're the laughing stock of the NFL. And then we go into draft season, right? After they fire Lovie Smith, they promote D'Amico Ryans. Everyone's like, yeah, that's a good hire, but it's going to take some time. You know, this is a guy who's new to coaching in San Francisco. And is he really ready to be a head coach at the NFL level? And then they go get CJ Stroud, who everyone hated. They go up to get Will Anderson Jr. Why are you going to trade away another first-round pick? You're the Texans. Do you not know this? They take Tank Dell in the 4th round. This is a tiny wide receiver. These guys never hit, right? Henry To'o. This is a guy that can't play. Have you watched them in Alabama? This dude can't. Everything worked. Everything worked. They won enough games to win the division. Like, yes, they won a playoff game. They won the division. They weren't even supposed to be sniffing the top of that division. And then they go in, they put a beating on the Browns. They culminate the best season that they've had there since the Deshaun Watson, like pre-scandal days. And that's a whole other part. Like, they're still getting stank off of them from all of this. D'Amico Ryans just showed up, smiled, bald head, looked great doing it, and crushed everybody in the way. I think, other people will have a argument for this award, but I think from preseason expectation to now, I don't think anybody did more than D'Amico Ryans.
Yeah, that's a great argument. D'Amico, what a first year he had there. You and I both love that hire. I mean, just getting a guy in with that energy. He's a Texan. He played. He knows what it means to play for the franchise. Just a great hire from the Houston Texans. But Tyson, I'm going to go to our other boy. Guy, we were on an island here. I got Dan Campbell, NFL Coach of the Year. And I'll take it back too, because there was some there was some hype around the Lions. Like, ooh, this next year could be their year, right? Like, they have a chance. They're favored to win the division. Everything was looking up, but all we heard was the Packers. All we heard was no, the Bears. Nobody believed in the Lions. Like, even me, and you were the one on the show who's like, no, I'm believing in the Lions. I believe in Dan Campbell. I still had my reservations because Detroit is a cursed city and it's a cursed football franchise. But Dan Campbell came into that this year, knowing with all the expectations when Detroit sometimes crumbles and they can't handle it. And they exceeded the wildest imaginations that I think even Lions fans had. I mean, they should have been the number 2 seed. They should have had, they had 2 home playoff games. I mean, they should have had it without the Cowboys falling apart. But regardless, 2 home playoff games for Detroit. The place was electric. The belief is back. I mean, I don't know what he did to get Ben Johnson back either, but damn it, that's Coach of the Year material right there to get your offensive coordinator to stay. But in all seriousness, just a fantastic season from the Lions. I think to navigate those expectations with some misfit toys, Jared Goff at quarterback, nobody still wants to give him his flowers. Oh, their draft process was stupid as well. Why would you take these players? And it all clicked. It all worked. And I think he's the Coach of the Year for me.
All he did to get Ben Johnson to stay was to show him the career trajectory of every other coach has taken the Washington Commanders head coaching job. Like, when's the last time somebody left that place with their sanity or with another job in place? I think run DMC, Dan Campbell, would be a pretty good choice here. I worry. I think that D'Amico should get this award anyways, but kind of the thing with Coach of the Year is like you can't win it if expectations were at a certain point, and you all you did was exceed expectations, but we already thought you were going to make the playoffs. So what's the big deal? You made the playoff, so that's kind of the issue. I mean, it's going to be fun one way or the other. I would love to see a Dan Campbell speech. I think that's probably what I'm cheering for more than my guy to win.
That'd be a good one, man. That would be a good one. But
what do you think out of him?
Yeah, that's what he said. We accomplished it. What do you think about the NFL awards overall, though? I mean, I know award season, it's fun to bet on and stuff. It gets frustrating because it's all these riders. They have to decide it instead of peers and all that. There's a different argument, but are you into this stuff? Like, do you follow it heavily or?
I mean, no, I'm not into it. I'll follow it for sure because that's kind of like we're sickos. That's what we do. I follow pretty much everything related to this kind of thing, but I'm not losing sleep if my guy doesn't win Defensive Rookie of the Year, and I don't agree with the way this went. I don't know, like going back in time, like when's the last time that there was a unanimous anything, let alone like Coach of the Year always seems like people are pissed. Like, oh, you got that wrong, right? Offensive Rookie of the Year. Typically, these things are wrapped up. like week 12, week 13. This year was a little different with MVP, and then Puka made it tougher and tougher to kind of stamp Stroud's name on that trophy. But to me, it's just. Did you watch the Grammys yesterday?
No.
It's like a party for all of the rich and famous people to get into the same room and talk about the life that they live. That's what the NFL awards is to me. Let's all throw on our ties. We're going to go out. We're going to celebrate the best players. But really what it is, we're just going to have a party. Like, we're going to have everybody in the same room before the Super Bowl. Let's have a good time. And I don't watch it. I'll get the updates on my phone.
Yeah, I don't watch either. I mean, before we came on, we were talking about TV shows we're into. I've been binging stuff lately. So yeah, I'm not going to be watching this while I'm going to have something on the main screen. I'm going to have basketball games on the side. We're getting ready for basketball season. We got a bunch of stuff for that too. So we're flipping the calendar here pretty soon, Tyson. I think the award show is always like, oh yeah, that's almost done.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's good college basketball on. Like, what am I going to be? I got to watch Keegan-Michael Key make the same joke that's been made for 15 years. I'm good.
Well, he's a Penn State guy, man. You can't be taking shots at me like that.
Hey, congratulations to Penn State. Another year having a player in the Super Bowl. That's 150 consecutive, except for the years that they haven't.
Well, how about ex-Penn State player first to be a player in the Super Bowl and now an official in the Super Bowl?
Is that cool? Who is that?
I forget his name now. It's Terry something. I did a story on it, but
over under how many like wild storylines that don't matter are going to come out between now and let's call it Saturday. I got 3. I'll set the line at 3.
You want the push option? What about 2.5?
No, we gotta go flat push, dude. We've been losing everything.
Yeah, you're right. We do. Yeah, I think the field. I'm worried that the field's going to dominate the rest. So like that's going to take the auction out of the rest of the stuff. But pissed off Kyle Shanahan, dude. Like he has a little leeway. I feel like he's part of NFL royalty. I think that'll get straightened out pretty soon.
So what's the deal? They put grass over a turf field, and UNLV Stadium is now like unpracticable.
Yeah, pretty much. And the Chiefs are in the luxury suite at the Bellagio, pretty much. They're playing in that new Raiders indoor facility.
So last year it was the game field. This year's the practice field. We're about 2 years away from the Chiefs having a better plane, and that's why the Super Bowl goes the way it does.
Yeah, well, we'll see what happens. So, Tyson, I mean, we got a bunch of our gambling stuff coming up soon, but I mean, lines are moving constantly. So where can they find their plays? Or we talked about college basketball a little bit. Where can they find those?
It'll be in the Chalkboard app. It's in the App Store, Google Play, wherever you download your apps. The group name is ISWIS, presents the Roundtable Bets. And this week's huge. Like, there's no way around it. There is 750 specials that you can bet on, right? And it's hard to sift through all of them and make sense out of them. So hop in that Chalkboard app. There'll be plays in pretty much anything you can think of, not just the Super Bowl, but other sports as well. And then tune into our betting extravaganza, I suppose, will be the title or something along those lines later this week as we kind of dive into the game. Because let's be honest, the Super Bowl is about the game. The Super Bowl is about hitting your props. At the end of, like, that's when your team's not in the game, you're really hoping a punt gets down inside the 5, right? You're hoping the national anthem's over on the time. So and before we get there, I just want to say, we know you're supposed to take unders in the Super Bowl. We know. You know who sits down to listen to a podcast about unders? Nobody, dude. So we're gonna do it our way.
And we don't want you to be the guy at the party that's rooting for nothing to happen. Come on. We all know those guys who sitting in the corners like, well, this is what I got. Oh, so no. Yeah, we're going to hook you up. We're going to have some fun stuff. We're going to try to end this baby right. So like Tyson said, make sure to stay tuned for that. And in the meantime, like, subscribe, and share the show. If you're watching on YouTube, smash that like button on the way out. In podcast form, go ahead and rate and review if you haven't already. And follow us on our socials, X, Instagram, TikTok. It's the same handle at ISWIS_pod. So we can't even emphasize it enough. We got a ton of content coming out for you later. We're excited about it. I should be too. It's Super Bowl week. We hope your guys' plans have already been set. You guys got some good food lined up, some good drinks, all that good stuff. And hopefully you win some money on the NFL awards that we just talked about. And if you disagree with anything, put it in the comments. We love the banter. So we'll talk to you later in the week, guys. Till then, peace.